Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Morgan F and you're watching Morgan Eats. We're talking all about affordable plant-based eats. So I am showing you what I make and I make ahead vegan friendly party. Starting with the drink. So this is going to be a mocktail. Right now I am going to freeze some mango tango juice that I got from Aldi's in these cute little flower trays that I got off Amazon, and I'll try to drop the link to where I found it. So again, this is days before, and I tried to test out this recipe days before the party. I tried to test out this recipe with apple juice, which is what you saw in the bottom part. So here I am struggling to try to get these suckers out. And actually, the party was Sunday, and I think I did this on Friday or Saturday, just because I could. Like, they're already frozen, put them in the thing. So the concept we'll see in a second here is to add some sparkling lemonade, or you could do sparkling water, to the ice cubes and allow them to melt. Moving on to the soup. So I'm making what I call a scrap asparagus soup, which I learned how to do this because I was so irritated by wasting all this asparagus. So right now I just cleaned off my mushrooms and I'm giving all these mushrooms a nice good chop. And so it's more than an asparagus soup, but the thought in my mind is if you make asparagus a lot, you know you're cutting off those woody stems. So what do you do with those woody stems? You can make the soup. So with the water from the broth, the liquid, I guess, from the broth, it really helps to soften up the stems, and it's easier for the stems to be digestible. So that's kind of how this concept came along. That's a half of a white onion. And so I have some cute little carrots. I've got carrots for days. Really, I will draft a recipe for this. I really like how this turned out. It just feels so springy, and I'll drop it in the description for you. But it's just so much fun to make a simple soup, so fresh and useful for whatever you have in your refrigerator. I don't like celery, so I don't keep celery around, but I imagine celery would be delicious in this soup as well. And you know your girl's gotta have her garlic. All right, so now this is how I cut asparagus. I literally lean it back to where it breaks naturally, and then that's my determination of what's good and what's bad. And I knew I wanted to keep the actual asparagus tops or spears for a topping, so I kept those, and then I was just only going to use the scraps. So here's in my Instant Pot, I'm going to saute the onions and mushrooms and carrots, and here comes my garlic in that garlic press, which honestly, friends, I don't know how y'all do it without, like, literally how y'all do it without a garlic press is beyond me. God bless you. And he does. So this soup needs quite a bit of salt, in my opinion, and I do add fresh herbs and pepper, but I feel the veggies are screaming for seasoning. So I added in basil and oregano. I would have loved to add it in some fresh rosemary or some fresh thyme, but I just didn't have that on hand. So I'm sauteing that on, this is in my Instant Pot, so I'm sauteing that on my saute function. So now I'm adding in those I don't know, the woodsy part of the asparagus, and giving them a quick stir as the veggies have sauteed. And then just like for a little added protein, I snuck in some chickpeas because why not? And my homemade veggie broth from scraps. I probably could use some scraps from the leftovers of this. So after that was prepped, I turned the Instant Pot on for soup, and I let it do its thing, and I blended it once it was cool, and I just put it in the crock pot the day of the event. So the dessert is my 3-ingredient chocolate mousse. And so in this bad boy, I have silken tofu, I have dates, and I soaked the dates because them suckers were hard in my refrigerator. And this is some oat milk chocolate. I only like the oat milk chocolate bars from Trader Joe's because everything is just, dark chocolate is too dark chocolatey, and I can't get the happy medium. So I froze that in some cute little containers. Let's move on to the carb, because baby, this was rough. That's why I got an exclamation point on the title, because baby. So I woke up that day and I was like, I'm feeling ambitious because everything else has been made ahead. The only thing I made that day was the zucchini boats and this. But I feel like I made this ahead because I made this and then I went to church. So this is a focaccia bread. And I feel like it turned out delicious, but I messed this part up. Because what you're supposed to do is because it's not supposed to be a knead. What you're supposed to do, and I love about baking, is the science pack. You're supposed to put the yeast and the 2 cups of warm water first. Then you add your 2 cups of flour. But Mofree didn't do all that. Mofree was like, it's the same bowl. It's going to work out. No, like, I'm going to put the proper recipe down so you have the vibe. But here I am struggling to mix it. And as you can see, it's a little dry. But, I'm like, sometimes I feel when you are cooking, you have to just kind of like follow your intuition. Like, it's coming together, but it still look a little dry. So I was like, okay, let me just add a little bit more liquid, get my hands in there, get a good knead going, even though it's not really supposed to be a knead, and be well. So I let that rest for 40 minutes in an oiled bowl, which is where you're seeing me take it. So I let that rest 40 minutes in an oiled bowl. Then here it is, all flattened out with olive oil. And so I'm going to just top it. I'm looking at those olives, the struggle to get them pitted, which is why I didn't have that many. But I'm like, you know what? Olive is very salty. Probably don't need that. So, and you could see like my whole finger. It was supposed to be like a little hand, like little tip of your hand in there. But baby, I did what I could do. I found some tomatoes. And ironically, I know a minute ago I was saying I didn't know I had rosemary. But by this time, I had found some rosemary just kind of chilling in the fridge. So once again, I just tossed it on here. I thought it looked real pretty and fabulous. And so I baked that, I think 425 for about 20 minutes. I'll leave the full recipe in the description as well. But this is just coming out beautiful, and it was a hit with the soup. Can you make an app ahead? Baby, I did. So this is actually a raw app. It is my beet lasagna that we're working on. So I soaked those cashews in water overnight. And so I'm blending the cashews up with some nutritional yeast and a few other seasonings. My sweet husband peeled these beets for me, which made it a lot easier to get in this mandolin and slice these babies nice and cute. Like, I couldn't do it without this mandolin here. Mandolin is king, because it just gets them so thin and easy to digest. But I was sitting here the whole time thinking like, oh my God, is this going to stain my mandolin? So I immediately hit it with some water just to kind of cut all that issue. So here's how thin these slices came out. So imagine someone just eating that and just biting into it. As perfectly thin. I used to bake these, but now I'm like, this is wonderful. Okay, so it's assembly line time. And I pretended like I was on the line, at like a Ford or whatever, and I'm getting down to business. Okay, so we've got this raw cashew cream. And I will be honest, I don't know exactly if I can say this is 100% raw because I did add this store-bought basil. But you know what? Raw-ish. I do my best. And then I was like, I didn't have a whole lot of basil in the little tube because I guess I couldn't find the one I just bought. But I just made it do what it does. And I went ahead and topped these a couple of times, adding a little bit more of the cashew ricotta with some more basil. And then I went ahead and put them on a plate and put them in my refrigerator and wrapped it up and called it good. And so I want to show you guys my table, my finished table. Here we go. So I always like to have a cute little menu. There's our there's our asparagus soup with our asparagus topper. I made some smashed potatoes and some zucchini the day of. Look at those beets. Aren't they so adorable? Our beet lasagna. And then my sweet husband made the salad. Ooh, so good. And there's that focaccia bread. Check out the table. Isn't she so cute? Oh my gosh. Let me know in the comments what you would have wanted to try if you were at the party. All the floral arrangements were homemade. Thanks so much for watching. And I hope if you enjoyed this video, subscribe. Let me know what you liked. And I'll see you next time.